unaweza kutype fast eh?
Link
watapata
acha ni forward kwa page kwanza. Alright, so maybe we can just start.
Yeah, you can start. Yeah.
So good evening everybody.
Good evening.
Poleni tumechelewa kidogo, that is by about 15 minutes. Once more welcome to this Ikue Updates live show. Leo tumebarikiwa tena. Niliwaambia huyu NYUKURI Baraza is a library of information, so mimi ningependa sana most times itakuwa nikimwalika kuja kushed light on several issues here and there, and I'm happy that today amekubali tena kukuja kwa show yetu. Amekuwa tu juzi just before the elections, and having been an observer, I'm sure he has a lot to tell us. So Professor, for those who have just joined us today, I know last time you made an elaborate introduction, but why not? You can always repeat for those who have just joined. So just tell us a brief history of about yourself.
Thank you. My name is NYUKURI Barasa Kundu. I am basically called Barasa because I'm always in meetings from Monday to Sunday, including today. So my brief history, so that I can be able to move on to the level where we want to discuss. I want to say I'm an academician because I've taught in the university for over 17 years. I'm also an election and governance expert, having worked first of all with the committee of experts in the research and the drafting department. I was part of the team that drafted the Constitution of Kenya. Many Kenyans don't know. I also drafted several laws in a team of 3: the Elections Act, IEBC Act, Political Parties Act, the Campaign Financing Act, and even a County Governments Act. Those are the laws that I participated personally as one of the key experts from my governance point of view. We had lawyers. I'm a lawyer but not an advocate. I think I should clear that.
Yeah, what's the difference?
The difference is that when you become an advocate, you have been admitted to the bar, either by the High Court, the Court of Appeal, or the Supreme Court of Kenya. You have gone to the Kenya School of Law. By I having studied law in South Africa, I have not been able to go to the School of Law. That's why I'm just a lawyer, because I can defend interests, especially public litigation, constitutional matters, but I cannot represent directly a client. But I do in the background a lot of cases, even for clients, even for lawyers, because I'm also a researcher.
So you can also represent someone in court?
In public interest, I can do a group, but not an individual, but a group. Like now, if a society or an NGO or farmers came together, that one is a group because of public interest litigation. Remember, I've represented cashier workers, I've represented village administrators. Yes, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's this bit I'm so interested in you repeating. Your academic life.
Yes, my academic life.
Kindly, just
good,
do that in brief.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say that I went to school. I did my primary in those early 80s and then joined Form 1. I was supposed to go to Lenana, I did not get fees. I went to Ndivisi High School. Then I only did Form 1 in Ndivisi because there was no fees. I came and now became a day scholar at Misiko Friends, where I did my O-level in 1985. First of all, I did Kenya Junior. By that time it was there. Before you, in a Harambee school, you could do Kenya Junior. Then I did my O-level in 1985, where I qualified. I got a second class, whatever second class, whatever honors in terms of Division 2, what they could call Division 2. Then I was admitted to Form 5 and Form 6 in Taranganya High School in Tehanja, that is in Migori. In 1987, I got my 16 out of 18 points. Then I qualified to go and do a degree in the university. I wanted to do law, but there was a lot of corruption. It's like many people qualified, and there was a lot of shortchanging, so I opted to go and do education. My first degree was Bachelor of Education in Kikuyu campus. My class was 1988-91. We graduated 1992. Then I got a scholarship immediately. I did my master's in the same university up to 1994. Then the same year, I was recruited as an assistant lecturer, and again posted to Kikuyu campus, where I started teaching. So I was teaching in Kikuyu campus until 2013, but on and off because I was also in South Africa doing my other studies. So that is it. Then after that I came back, taught a few years again, then moved from Nairobi to Kenyatta University, where now currently I'm an associate professor at the African Center for Transformative and Inclusive Leadership. It's called ACTIL. It's affiliated to Kenyatta University. It's an institution in Kenyatta University, or a directorate, but funded by the UN. So since that time, I've been doing that, training leaders across Africa, not just in Kenya, but more often now I'm attached to the UN Women, where I train on matters gender, leadership, and governance. 2 days ago, I was here doing training for women leaders from the 4 counties: Bungoma, Busia, Kakamega, and Vihiga. Yeah. So apart from that, now I'm also an expert in my own right in terms of governance and election matters, because I've been in election matters from 1992 during the ECK time. I also at one time worked as an election officer. I was in charge of Kandui training, and later on became the super PO for Moi Primary. That is 202. I'm sure by that time you are still in college. Yeah, 202. Yeah. Then I've trained IBC staff, both commissioners and staff. Yeah.
So you've done quite a lot.
Yeah.
Now, let us go straight to the topic of the day.
Yeah.
Kindly share your findings on the just concluded by-elections.
Yeah. First of all, let me start with the Kapchai, where I was the election observers coordinator on behalf of Inuka Kenya, which is a national movement, civil society kind of. So I was able to train and deploy 37 election observers. So in every polling station within Kapchai, I had an observer. That's why you must have seen that I was able to announce the results or to tabulate results before IBC. Of course, those are provisional results. IBC, the one that does the final. You must have seen a small paper written by my hand. Those were my accurate tallies from my polling stations. So I was able to get all the happenings and the proceedings in all the polling stations right from before opening. I had instructed my observers to arrive at the station 30 minutes to, so they were able to observe the opening procedures, they were able to observe the voting procedures, they were able to observe now the closure counting, and then I myself again moved to the tallying center at Kisiwa. So I will be able to, along the line, talk about all those issues. Now, I want to begin, for those who have not known, Kapchai had a by-election on the 27th of November. This is following the death of the former MCA, Barasa Muhongo. Then IBC declared the seat vacant alongside others. There were 17 MCA seats across the country and 6 National Assembly and 1 senatorial in Baringo. So Kapchai was one of it, but it had a lot of interest because of the high stakes. So Kapchai had 18,288 registered voters. Out of these, during the polling day, 9,160 turned up to vote, which in percentage is 50.9%. That's good enough. Our international standard is 45. So Kapchai interest, will say it was good because people turned up at least 50.9%. It's an average. But that does not mean the whole wholesome of the will of the people of Kapchai was realized. It was not, because people kept off due to violence. They were scared. Others feared what could happen, because at least you must have heard that there was violence in several polling stations before and during the time of voting. Yeah, so maybe that could also have contributed to the low number of votes. Then we began our day at 6 a.m. in all our polling stations, and then just like alongside IEBC, by 9 we were able to do our update, the first update, and that is when we knew that things were going south for some candidates, because the first 2 hours is when voters rush to come and vote.
Did you witness the violence that we have heard was happening right inside polling stations?
Yes, I witnessed, and in fact I was in Busakala, and I want to be very particular. I even took some photos. I was in Busakala when one of the candidates, without naming, came in and found a mzee who was alleged to be a driver or a supporter of one of the candidates, to be particular the independent candidate. Then after a short kind of exchange, the guy who was a candidate started beating the mzee. I witnessed that.
Professor?
Yes.
Now that you have been entrusted by the people through some organizations to be an observer and to look at what actually happens. What is wrong with you mentioning the candidate?
We have our report which we are just about to, but the candidate was an independent candidate. The one who was beating was a Ford Kenya candidate. Yes. And the alleged supporter or driver was the driver of the independent candidate. I have even the photo I will share with you. Yes, they are there. But you know, because of data protection. Yeah, there's a I think now that's why you see me not.
I get it.
Yeah, you get it. Because of data protection. Yeah. I need consent sometimes because of those photos. Yeah. But I witnessed. I even talked to them there who told me, no, I was waiting for somebody. But the Ford Kenya candidate plus the supporters were alleging he was disputing money. But you see now, bribery, the one who is distributing and the one who is receiving, all of them are committing an electoral offense. And that was also in the presence of security people were there. I had to talk to security. I talked to the IBC presiding officer. Now the response was not very good. For the IBC officer, he says, I'm more concerned what is going on inside. Outside here, that is the police. When I talk to the police, they say, now for us, we don't have the mandate. We must be given orders by the IBC. You know, now those are security officers working under IBC. They are no longer getting orders from the police protocol. So the issue was not solved, but I advised the mzee just to get out, because I saw he could be beaten and killed.
So basically, that mzee did not vote.
No, the mzee himself, according to
the one who was assaulted,
I think he voted elsewhere but came here to look for somebody. According to him, he told me, I'm coming to check for somebody. But now the allegation was that he was there signaling people and giving them money.
So it could be right, because if he votes somewhere else, what was he doing?
It could be right, but you see, you cannot ascertain the amount of money he was giving. Yeah, because you know, bribery is always more of a secret. Just do like this, I greet you and I give you. Yeah, but I witnessed the incident of bribery. I witnessed the incident of violence.
So, and do you have records of just for the records, because you're not going to give us you're not going to give us
we can
now. But did you take photographic evidence of any voter bribery?
Yeah, I took. You could see some young men and women, like now at Busakala. They were not, some of them were not voters. They came as far as Bungoma here. I don't want to mention their names, but I know them by face and have their images. They were not voters in, for instance, in Busakala, but they were hanging around and alongside the 400-meter radius. So basically, there was no explanation. One thing is they were canvassing with the voters. When the voters were talking, they were canvassing, talking to them. But they had also signs from both sides. They had signs of do as we do, go and use the pen to make a statement. So you see now, I'm sure a pen was one of the symbols or whatever. They never say Simba lazima it has to. So Simba, I'm sure you know, when you hear Simba, you know that was also a candidate. So I could say both sides of the political divide were prepared for violence or to defend themselves. Yes.
Were there any arrests? in your
Yes, arrests, but those arrests were not really what I could call arrests. Of course, some of the youth were arrested, including, I'm sure you know, some of those who are considered to be goods that are in police, and now they are waiting court determination. There were arrests. Even during the polling day, there were arrests. I could also tell you, I also moved and went to Musese, the CDF. There were 2 vehicles which had blood number plates. Very tough vehicles. Those vehicles were intercepted by the police. I'm being informed they're still at the police. Then there was a young man who was in one of those vehicles that was trying to give money, and then it's like one of our observers saved him from being beaten by Wananchi, who realized that he had gone there to talk to the voters on the line. Yes.
Okay.
So there's a thin line between talking to voters and bribery, because why should you talk to the voters even if it was your sister or your brother? You could wait until he or she finishes and then you talk about. So canvassing itself is undue influence. Yeah.
Prior to the election,
Yes.
Eric Wekesa had a concern.
Yes.
About switching the tallying center from
Sese
to Kisiwa.
Yes.
Was there any cause of
Alarm. I want to say that in October around 29th, the IBC chair cassetted Musese CDF as the tallying center. Then on the 4th of November, he had a meeting with all the candidates and stakeholders to discuss, after he had received some what he calls intelligence reports. He said the Musese area was not neutral. There was allegation of being a dominant zone of the sitting MP who had a lot of influence on what could go on, including now him being now closer to the then aspirant who is now the MCA elect. So based on those concerned, the returning officer now wrote to IBC Nairobi, and it's like they were considering now shifting the polling station, the tallying center from Musese CDF to now Kisiwa. So he suggested that as a neutral area for security reasons, because the voters may be safe, the candidates can be safe, but IBC must be safe. Because if IBC is not safe, they can always, as even well, declare suspension or null and void the whole process. So given that, they invited the candidates and stakeholders, including those who went to petition, and that is one of the fault lines of the ruling, that you participated in this process during the 4th of November meeting between IBC and the candidates and their agents or stakeholders. The 9 of them raised an objection about the movement from Musese CDF to Kisiwa. The complaint, according to the judgment by Justice Sharif, was an afterthought. It came on 24th. IBC moved this station on the 19th of November, but the cassette notice came out on 21st. Then the written complaint through the lawyer of the independent candidate was delivered on 24th. So I think it's like it was almost like
overtaken by
events. Yeah. So to me, the issue of a tallying center, of course, it could cause some confusion, but it doesn't subvert the will of the people. Why? Voting and counting ends at the polling station. Even if I decided now to go and tally at the Edu's place, I don't think anything will change through the KMS kit, through any ballot stuffing, because the technology that we have now, for you to vote, you must be identified through the KMS kit. And if your finger or any biometric cannot be found, they will take your photo, then scan it and look at your photo and look again at the same KMS kit, which means either way, whether it's manual, you must still be identified by the KMS kit. My biometric is not seeing, but the moment they take the scan of my ID, it must also again tally with what is in the KMS kit. So when you had in the past, of course, it used to happen of people stuffing ballot. How will you stuff the ballot through the KMS kit? And then whenever such happened, it means agents must come around and even observers, so that the presiding officer, the deputy, fills what we call a validation form to say so and so's biometrics cannot be identified through the machine. So we are now allowed by law regulations to have him sign this validation form and then have his picture or ID taken. And there were no so many instances of such. I think in one of the stations I only observed 5, in another one 3, in another one 1. But you know why people's biometric could not? Some of them are used to kuchunga boga, so that's interference with the biometrics.
So when that happens, what happens?
Now, when that happens, when a voter comes and he or she is not identified through the biometrics, the presiding officer now, first of all, if he is sure that this candidate is seen on the KIEMS, either in the same polling station, if it's in a different stream, he will be directed to that. But if it's in the same stream, he now invites the agents to come and witness the filling of the validation form. After which now that particular voter is allowed to go and vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, are there any other irregularities that you might have noticed?
Yes.
Apart from voter bribery?
Yes.
And,
very major.
And violence.
Voter bribery and violence was almost spread, and intimidation was spread from the two sides across the world. It depends on where you belong to. And if you are identified, I could also tell you could be beaten by just being identified on the side, even whether you have not done anything, but because they know you belong to a camp A or camp B. Yes. So it depended who was around and when you were passing. Yeah. So the major electoral offenses were bribery, which I would say the NPS, the National Police Service, and even IDC failed totally. That one I will tell you for free. The same to violence. Of course, instances of where some people were arrested, but our observers witnessed violence in other areas like Chwele VTC, where again one of the chief agents of one of the candidates who was independent was cut with a panga or a shoka. Yeah, we saw blood oozing, and then we have photos to that effect. We had also the case of Sikusi, also again violence, and Senandiki, Nairumbi. Several cases were reported.
As an observer, do you think the security agencies are doing enough, or even add the courts into it?
Yes.
Are they doing enough to make sure that we do away with the electoral violence as one of the vices?
And also bribery.
Yes.
I think those are the weak areas, and the police in Kapchai did not do much, and IBC depends on the police because they are not a law enforcement agent in themselves, so they depend on the police, who are also reluctant to enforce law. I don't know whether it was by default or by design, but they did very little. So if there's anybody who messed us up so that we had violence, and of course they could say we tried, but there were enough security, but they could not contain the violence and the intimidation. They could also not contain the bribery. And you know, once there's bribery, you already subvert the will of the people. Yeah. Once there's violence, you scare away the would-be voters, especially women, will not want, and even the disabled person. One of the supporters of a candidate also beat up a lame person. Yes. We have details, and now because it is for purpose of prosecution, we will not prosecute him on the media.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have evidence.
Oh, that is bad.
Yes.
So, what do you recommend?
Yes.
Because you see, at this rate, we are staring at a situation where
2027
people are just going to fight.
Very bad.
People are just going to fight.
It will be survival for the fittest.
So even in Kasipul,
yes,
a whole MP,
yes, was cut.
Was
seriously injured.
Gang beaten.
Yes.
And even his security guy was disarmed.
The same happened in Malawa. You saw even his vehicle and other people's vehicles, whatever. The driver, I'm sure, is still in the hospital. So if we cannot contain violence, we cannot claim the election is free, is fair, and credible, because violence contributes a great deal to the voter turnout.
You're one person who has fought for human rights.
Yes, yes.
You have been around all this time.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, could you do a recommendation?
Yes.
What exactly should the government do?
Now,
because clearly what they are doing is not enough.
what the government is doing is not enough. But the same government was also part of the problem, because they mobilized state resources, they mobilized PSS, they mobilized the MPs and the cabinet secretaries who are also walking around the armed security. So you see now that already compromises. The only way we can deal with violence is that IEBC must be given full control of the whole electoral process, because condemning violence is part of their responsibility. But they have to work hand in hand with the police, who must exercise their powers diligently. Now at the moment they are not adequate as police, but secondly I don't think they really understand their mandate and roles in electoral processes. So that is part of the problem. The government must deal decisively with violence. It's an electoral offense. So enforcement of the electoral code of conduct, which every candidate and observer and agent signs, is becoming a challenge, because yes, the rules are made, but there's some more animals which are more equal than others.
So does your mandate end with the announcement of results?
No. Up to now, we have finished now the by-election. We are making returns. We also prepare a report and submit to IEBC. Election observers are under the constitution under Article 884H. If you look at Article 884H, IEBC is supposed to facilitate the work of election observation, monitoring, and documentation of results. So we are part of the constitution as monitors, as observers. So we return and also file our parallel report to IEBC. And IEBC will make also recommendations which can help improve the electoral process. Then from next week, I was just talking to the returning officer, we'll be back in Kapchai now to monitor the voter registration, because Kapchai voter registration, Malava and all those 24 were postponed. So our role, I'm a long-term observer, we will observe every part of the electoral process, leave alone even the issue of voting. We are supposed to observe from when the election is declared to be held, the party nominations, and that is also another weak area. If you nominate a wrong candidate, you are likely even to suffer in an election. So we are also supposed to observe the process under which the parties nominate their candidates. But again, we don't interfere, because a party can choose to do secret, they can do opinion poll, they can sit and do negotiated democracy, whichever method. So you can't interfere with the party. You can't tell them why do you choose so and so and not so and so. The Political Parties Act protects them. But now again, another issue which I've noticed is where you don't belong to a particular party, you have no candidate, but you are campaigning. Those are people who are now violating the law under Article 103. Where you see, yes, I'm a leader, a party leader, or a politician, an MCA, an MP, a governor, or a senator. I'm going to campaign for a candidate who is not of your party. That one is a constitutional offense under Article 103. Is also an offense under Section 14(5).
You are talking about what Mheshimiwa Majimbo did in Kapchai?
Yes.
You are talking about what Mheshimiwa Wetangula did in Malava?
Yes.
You are talking about what the president has not come out.
Yes, the deputy president.
The deputy president has campaigned for several, including what ODM.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
that's an electoral offense in the sense that you are promoting the manifesto, the policies of a party that you don't belong to. Article 38 is very clear about political rights. Your political rights are limited to your political party. If you feel you are not comfortable with that political party, get out, seek fresh mandate. But you cannot move from one party when you are still holding their seat and campaign.
Okay, wait.
I'm just saying that's a major flaw.
I've just realized, I've just remembered the scenario surrounding Mheshimiwa Wetangula supporting a candidate in Malava. There was no Ford Kenya candidate.
Yes, but they belong to the Kenya Kwanza. For him, that was okay. But if you are in a DAP, for instance, DAP had a candidate in Kapchai Chwele. Maybe for those who don't know, there was Madam Fanis Kuswa, who was a candidate. She managed to get 52 votes. She had a right, and the party was supposed to campaign for her to get more votes.
But she struck a deal out of it.
So now, that also was a confusion. It was more confusion, and again, she could not be drawn from the ballot. So maybe she was a deal maker. That was a problem. That was a problem. But ordinarily and under normal circumstances, even Senator Boniface Falwale was wrong not to campaign for a UDA candidate, but to campaign for So this was a confusion across the country. But if we are going to have political hygiene, then parties must whip and discipline such a kind of people. And if anything, they can always initiate a recall.
It started with Mheshimiwa Didimas campaigning for Senator Wakoli.
Yes. That was also...
And it looks like this confusion will continue.
And now it can cause more violence, it can cause more intimidation. Yeah. So it means we don't respect the rule of law and the due process. I'm
looking at a scenario where in the coming elections, God for us all, every man for himself.
Yeah.
You arm yourself, you protect yourself.
Which is very unfortunate. It will not be the power of the ballot, it will be the power of the bullet or the...
Because clearly, I can tell you without fear of contradiction that if Eric had not also protected himself,
he could have been harmed.
Much more.
That's true.
Probably we would have buried him by now.
That's true. That's very true. So each side was prepared for defense or for war. And you know, when you are prepared for defense or war, either they lose or you win. You see that kind of it. It's like players in a rough game where if you don't get the ball, you don't miss the leg.
But don't you think this violence is a double-edged sword, whereby if you want to scare your opponent, your people will also be scared of the same violence?
They will, and even you can lose. Me, I think even some of the candidates in Kabuchai lost because they were seen being violent and people were scared with their behavior, even beating people and their supporters during the voting day. That alone scares people from turning up. It also may work against you as a candidate. And I think that's a lesson learned. And it's part of our history. The moment you engage in violence, voters will turn against you, and I think it becomes a protest against you. Just like the Kabuchai was a protest against one of the candidates who was perceived to be violent. And for the future, we must avoid violence because violence supports the will of the people.
There was a concern about Chuele police station.
Yes.
And there's even talk that now the next one of the agendas is now to have it moved from that place where it is right now. I don't know whether it is on private land or there is not enough space for houses for police officers. There's that concern. I don't know whether you've captured it as
yes, it's part of our observation. The Chuele police station, and even you remember the officers who were there before the election were moved, new ones came in. It's still a concern. They are more concerned about those who are doing brews of Janga and they also want to extort money. So in this particular scenario, of course, we need to thank the police commandant Naito Anjagi. He was very neutral and he was really vigilant, but some of his officers were compromised. Because if I come and report to you that look at this person is being beaten, even a criminal has a right to be protected. If I've done something wrong, arrest me, take me to the police station or to the court so that I do whatever. But they were almost like aloof when things were happening. So I don't know whether they by design or by default. That's a very dangerous scenario.
No, but there's this one where an aspirant was assaulted right inside a police station.
Yes, I know.
I don't know if there are any...
So that is selective application of the law.
Would there be any action later, or now
it has not ended?
The victim has now to follow it up.
The victim has to follow it up, record a statement in the OP, first of all OP, and then record a statement. Then, being a criminal offense, DPP has to pick it up under Article 157. Yeah, so that the case now is a state versus whoever was acting contrary to the law. But the victim must complain through an OP, through a statement, and then we as human rights, we can only come in if that has been reported, and we'll be asking the DPP to take action. But there's a protocol and procedure.
Professor, you and I know that DPP is one of the lamest departments.
It's one of the weak links.
Yes, because when a case, apparently, especially those that involve politicians, is taken to the police station, the police station will start dancing around with this. It has been taken to the DPP or DPP to either decide whether we are taking this person to court or not.
Yes.
Like me, my assault case, 1 year ago, up to now.
I remember you and I were also involved in another assault in 2020. Our case went around like this, and later on they were dismissed.
So I don't know. As an
now there's room for private prosecution. Yes, beyond the DPP. If the DPP does not do, you as an individual who is a victim, through your lawyer or even personally, you can always apply for private prosecution. That is allowed. Many Kenyans don't know that you can do private prosecution. Me, I've done private prosecution in several of my cases, including prosecuting an OCS, you know, prosecuting a DCI. Yes, prosecuting DTPP. I've done it, I think, you know, and won the case. So that is also a space and a window that is there. You can do private prosecution. Yeah.
Okay.
But many Kenyans fear, how will you take over on the police? If you are not courageous, not for the faint-hearted, you must be very courageous.
And you must also have your network.
The network.
Because clearly these people are all over.
Yes.
Yeah,
they are all over. And they can always frustrate you. I've never been able to prosecute an OCS. I've prosecuted the OCBD. I've prosecuted the DPP in Bungoma. Yeah. I'm sure you saw the cases that I was winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elections ended.
Yes.
What are your observations about the occurrences after election?
Yes. First of all, let's finish the occurrences during election. The occurrences during the election were at the polling, during the opening of the polling. Of course, for all the polling stations, they were opened on time except one, that's Kusi. And the explanation was very not clear. I think the people who were involved as the IBC officials were not well trained, or they were not efficient enough to do what was required about them. So polling was okay, smoothly, somehow. In the morning was chaotic because people were rushing to vote and go. And we observed that there were very few queue clerks who could direct people on their lines. You'll find like in one polling station you only have one or two, yet it has 4 streams. You know, that brings a lot of chaos. And then that is now even what allows canvassing, because people are mingling and mingling. So the IBC has to do something about having adequate staff, and even the welfare of IBC staff was not good. They complained to us, but also in low tones, because they don't want to be told you got a job. They were not given food. They survived from midnight the following day, nothing. Of course, with a soda, bottle of soda and some half bread. So even the welfare in terms of issues was not good. Operations, we were in one of the polling stations where the validation forms were not there. So it means the person who was supposed to vote through validation has to wait until those forms are. Of course, there was also a blackout in some of the polling stations. All of us as a contingent measure. But you can imagine blackouts also create a lot of...
That is in the morning?
In the morning. No, in the wee hours of the morning plus the morning. Yes. You know those have proper lighting system.
Okay.
You have a lot of light, but them did not have. It was very dim and there was blackout. We thought it was intentional, but it would have been normal, but at the wrong time. Yeah. Now, for this time, we witnessed IBC officials showing each ballot before counting. Yeah, I think that was okay. Yeah.
There were no incidents where a candidate walked into a polling station in the rooms.
Yes.
With any complaint, any concern?
Basically, some were complaining why it was taking too long. Like I could remember some candidate, and they came in Sakala, where I was also briefly before I went around. Room 2 was having a problem. The line and the queue was too long, while the other ones are not having queue. So that was a concern.
That was in the morning?
In the morning, but around 11. So it forced me now, when I listened to that, to talk to the returning officer, whom we are working very closely. After talking to him, he had to send the IT guys and enforcement, so that at least the line now started moving. But again, also I realized that the PO had an annoyed attitude. Yeah, so I think that also affected his PR with those who are inquiring about why the line was taking too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in such a case, what's the remedy? Just in case a PO has some form of attitude or something?
Yeah, if the PO has a form of attitude, and through observers or any other person, including even the agents, once you complain, the RO has to act. It was just on the point of now removing him and replacing him until he was now to comply. So we managed to talk to the RO, who came and added now more staff, and then the ID guy was on standby. But in future, if we ever got that, that is a PO who is supposed to be sacked on the spot, the others who are trained to replace him, because that can cause a lot of commotion, especially when you are delaying. Yeah. So we as observers, we have a right to intervene, not alarm but alert. Yani, it's like we work hand in hand with the electoral officials, because we are the eyes and the ears of the public. We watch on IBC itself, we watch on the observers, we watch on the candidates, we watch on the media, anybody. And whenever I saw people who are not having badges like this one, I could move to talk to the presiding officer and say, who are these people? Everybody at the polling station must be identified. Then he has to tell the police to deal with those people, to tell them go away. But that kind of working relationship between the police and the IBC was not very good in terms of working on issues of violence and even chasing away people who are idle. People remained in the compound, and that's also scary. Supposing somebody picked your money and then he wants to vote and he has seen you or your agents, that can also cause a lot of the killed are afraid.
Were there any reports on intimidation from our observers?
Yes, we have in our report very detailed intimidation cases. In fact, here I have our preliminary report, which we have released as a press.
You have released
I'll give you.
So
yes, so you can have that, and later on publish or whatever you want to do it. We have cases of intimidation.
Election day observation statement by Bungoma chapter of Inuka, Kenya.
Yes.
Angaza Kura on the Chwele Kapchai ward
very specific.
Held on 1st.
Today the press was on 1st of December.
Oh, this was the press statement?
Yeah, today.
Oh, you had a press statement?
Yes, today we had a press statement,
I was not aware.
It summarizes all the issues that we observed. Incidents of intimidation are recorded there. Incidents of violence, bribery are also recorded there. But now we are going to do a detailed report which has even photos of the instances, so that it's not just about saying it happened. You're able to show evidence. It's evidence-based kind of reporting. But that report now will be shared to IBC. IBC, if it doesn't act on it, anybody can now pick it and prosecute.
Apart from the images that you observers take, because those are what you term as the credible ones.
Credible ones, and even recordings. Especially
Do you also use recordings you get on social media? Or maybe a friend sends you an image telling you something, I've witnessed something going on, this is the recording.
In terms of
such images?
Now, the funny thing about observation, you can only rely on an observer but not from the social media, because it can also be Photoshop. So if it's our own trained observer, yes, that's credible, because that observer is also accredited by IBC and he has also had a code of what you call the oath of secrecy. So that one we get it, but from social media, for us, we don't go with it. Like if I was to open our page on election observation, you will see all types of photos, but not forwarded from any social media. The ones that are coming directly from our observers. So anything outside our observers will not take.
After training, training of the personnel to be involved in
election observation.
Maybe you can talk about that.
Yes.
How did IBC conduct this, and which groups were trained?
Good. Basically, IBC does not, first of all, even train observers. IBC only accredits observers. There are several different observer group missions. Locally, we have ELOC, what we call the Electoral Local Observation Group. We have Inuka, Kenya on its own. We have Kenya Human Rights as an observer group. We have the FIDA, we have the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, which is a government agency but also does, and several others who are doing election observation. So what happens, you apply to IBC and you attach all the details of each of the observer you want to be accredited. Then they go and do their due diligence on each person, because you will supply the ID, the passport photo, and a resume or a kind of CV. They go and look at it. In fact, you have to do that in advance. Like as we applied in July, but the accreditation came around October. Although late, is supposed to have come earlier. Now, once they have verified and they gotten certified that as IBC that these are now credible people, then they will be able to bring you an accreditation certificate, and then you get a badge. This badge we have is not from the observer, it's from IBC. There are some groups of people who applied and they were turned down. Why? Some of them are known to be very partisan in public. You know very well I train even agents, but this time I had to keep off from training agents, because already you will be a partisan person, so I had to keep off. So even some media applied and they were turned down, while others were accredited. I don't know whether you also applied or...
No, I didn't apply. In fact, I've just received my badge is being sent tomorrow.
Yes. Now
after accreditation a year ago.
No, that's wrong.
I went for that training in October last year. Then they gave us this, they told us we have now to apply for the card online.
You do it online.
You move one step, then you get stuck.
You go back again.
You try for months, then one time, then we move to the next one. So it's when now my card, I actually paid for it, I think 4 or so days ago.
You will get it. But still now you can join us in the long-term observation, which is not about just a by-election. We observe all the electoral processes that are going to go on. Now allow me to move on to the implication of other, but just to give a round of whatever on by-elections. I've said by-elections were held in 24 electoral areas. 6 parliamentary or national assembly, including Malava, Panisa, Makarini, Kasipul. We had also, which one again? Ugunja. Then the Baringo was the senatorial one. Then we had the MCA kind of by-elections in Narok, Kariobangi North. We had in Kisii, there were 3, one in Kerenyo, another one in Nyasongo, another one in Nyamia. Then we had even in Huisero, that was Kisha West. There were several of those. Now, if you look at the results critically, on the face value, the Kenya Kwanza may have won, including Bere. But if you look at the results critically, and I will start with Bere. Bere, the leading candidate, Muzenge Leo, had 15,802,000 votes. Karish or Newton Kariuki had 15,308. If you look at that margin, it's a lesser margin, 494 votes difference. With all the resources, with everything, that does not augur well with the government that is in power. So you look at it, and if they would do scrutiny, that is a chance of seeing that the irregularities are very high. So that is very close. You come to Malava, the winning candidate UDA got 21,254. Then the DAP Kenya candidate who was Seth Panyako got 20,210. Look at it, the margin is also close, only 1,354. That also shows the election was too close to call, both for the government and the opposition. So you cannot underrate the opposition capacity. You got for the by-election for MCS, DCP won, for instance, in Narok. They won in Huisero. They also won a seat in Kariobangi. The party associated to Matiang'i, UPA, won Ekerenyo. They won Nyashongo. And also PTP, Mogingo Magara won another seat huko kwao. So look at that. You come to Bungoma, the independent candidate who was supported by other forces won the Kwere Kapchai seat by a margin of 3,394 votes. So which means the close competitor got less than the margin. The close competitor got 2,765, while the winner got 6,162. That cannot be underrated. The people of Kapchai made a statement, and yet the government, through its forces, through the MCS, because they are also in government, the MPs were all around walking and looking for votes. It means the will of the people was more strong than the party machinery and the government. So we cannot underestimate the opposition in 2027. But if it's going to be full blast, bribery and violence, then this country may be worse than what we saw in 2007. Yeah, so the war drums are very high. This by-election is an indicator because there's high stakes both for the government and for the opposition. I'll tell you for free, William Ruto got 50.49 in 2022. Getting 50.1 or 50 plus 1 and 24 counties in whatever to 50, what you call 25% in 24 counties is not going to be a walk in the park. So he will be out to go full blast, and you know that means a lot in terms of resources. It may also mean violence. It may mean so many things. The opposition are also determined to say it's a one-term president, so they will mobilize themselves around one of their own, regardless of whether he's whatever. Then they want to give William Ruto a run for their money. So fahali wawili wakipigana nyasi ndio inafanya nini? Yeah, we may witness a lot of violence in 2027 than what was there in 2007. It may have just been a picnic. It will be too worse unless things happen. If the by-election is something to go by, the apathy and also the aloofness of the security, this country may burn.
Wow. So how do we avoid that?
We must avoid that first of all by engaging in civic education and voter education, to educate the communities and the individuals and the citizens that this country is more important than any of those candidates. Leaders come and go, but Kenya must remain. Then people must know that election is just a one-day exercise. It's not a do or a die. So we must avoid that, because if you rely on politicians so that you hype your emotions and all that, you will end up suffering or killing. But at the end of the day, those politicians don't even care about you. You have known in politics there's no enmity, there's no friendship. Those who are now even fighting can tomorrow easily work together. And I urge Mheshimiwa Natembeya to mend fences with the Waitamula, to mend fences with the Musalia and even Oparanya. For the sake of Western, if they want to bargain, they have to work together. They have no option. But without a political party that is strong, watapangwa, there's no way we are going to. You may say Ford Kenya is now going to the graveyard, but is Ford Kenya the problem or the leaders in Ford Kenya? Me, if you ask to me, my personal opinion is that let everybody who is in Ford Kenya as a leader angatuke. Let it be under new management so that people with fresh minds can come around, because the people who have been frowning and holding on Ford Kenya are not open-minded. Yeah, so we can always revamp a party, but surviving as a community of Western without a party. Musalia closed his shop or sold it. Now Ford Kenya is likely to be folded. DAP has wrangles, so what will be our bargaining ground? We will not have a platform to bargain. Without a political party, you cannot bargain.
So you are for strengthening of these
institutions, political parties as institutions, regardless of which name. If you feel the name was bad, you can rebrand it. But as lawyers, as people of Western, we must have a political party to bargain with. You can't kill the leaders and the party. You better kill the leaders, but don't kill the party. Ford Kenya is the oldest political party in this country that has survived the test of time. You kill it just because of one or two people whom we don't like. You have done a mistake as a community. We will live to regret. So let's remove all the people whom we don't want. But this hotel or this your house can be done into anything. So let's rebrand the parties as an institution for purpose of bargaining. But I'm sure the Kenya Kwanza government is very happy because they know we as a party, we are now more vulnerable. Yeah. Tuna mahali pa kujikinga. Which party is there? DAP may get some MPs and MCS, but does it have structures in the country, either in Western? Then the wrangle between Mheshimiwa Natembeya and Eugene is also not occurring well for us. Of course, they can claim there is no wrangle, but penye moshi kuna moto.
But isn't that what popularizes parties? When there are wrangles is when now people are wondering what is so sweet about this party.
Yes, there are two sides of the coin. It may be popularizing, but it can also be an undoing. It can bring court cases, and once they are in court, one will walk out, another one remain. Remember the story of Fort Asili, Fort Kenya, those wrangles, they don't work well for a party.
And the latest one between Kina Mheshimiwa Munini and Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Yes, it doesn't work well. You saw what happened, the Radson, whatever. At the end of the day, we got more divided than ever before. Yeah, so that will not help us. We must avoid court wrangles. We must avoid, we have to have dialogue for all these people to survive. Yeah, and supposing now you are to build a new party, we have only 21 months to the election. It's very difficult to build a new party. Of course, our history shows that the parties that win the election don't come even early. They come 6 months to the election. But you must have resources. Yeah, but also as a community, we must have institutions to use for institutional memory and also for bargaining. Yeah.
There are those calling for mergers of political parties.
Coalition, what we call coalitions and mergers.
Coalitions.
There are coalitions and mergers. Those who are calling for mergers are those ones who are now, for instance, Ford Kenya disappear. Yes, the way we killed New Ford Kenya. Of course, New Ford Kenya is now the DAP. Yes. Why did we have to kill it and revive it again? So you have seen all the colors and all the instruments, including the police documents, and for New Ford Kenya. So those who call for mergers want to say we can have a collective voice so that we now move away from tribal groupings. They have a point, but the weakness of killing that political party for merger, we are again going against the spirit and the letter of the constitution. Our Article 4 says Kenya is a multi-party democracy. So the moment we fold the parties and remain with one party, we will go back to again the Kano era of one single party when we had Section 2A. So we must safeguard political rights, and this cannot be safeguarded only in one political party. Because supposing my rights have been violated, I need to move to another political space, and that is why we have 92 political parties. Of course, it's not good to have many, but we cannot have one.
So there was one concern I received during the day.
Yes.
Were there any logistical concerns? Logistics in terms of maybe transport, maybe arrival time
For who?
For IBC staff?
I think
as part of your report.
Yes, as part of our report, we have even recorded minor. They were minor, not very pronounced. They were there.
What were
Walilala kwa polling stations. They arrived there when I interviewed them. They arrived there at around saa sita usiku, so they slept at the polling station. So they were not coming to the polling station. Yes, they slept.
So wakitoka training.
Yes.
So wakitoka Kisiwa.
Yes.
With the
materials, they came and slept at the polling station. So by the time the observers were arriving at 5:30, 5:40, they found the IBC officials there. The only thing they could not do is to open the polling station in the absence of agents and observers. Okay. So they were to wait until 6, then they now.
So give us a picture of when you say they slept there.
Yes.
Walilala kwa viti ama
yes, walikuwa na kesha
ama they had some
no, there was no mattress. They slept standing or sitting.
Anyway vile
unapata unaweza kujikinga kwa nani, lakini hawakuwa na mattress. So logistics there, it means walikesha kwa polling station from saa sita mpaka morning.
That is inhuman.
Yes, of course. I told you the welfare component was an operational issue, it was a logistical issue. Some of them were very tired. When you look at them, they were almost like dozing and all that, which would also compromise their efficiency and effectiveness. Yes. And the reason why they slept there, when I asked some of them, they were saying the moment you move during the day, you don't know what will happen. You can be intercepted. I think that can also be a security issue.
So kidnapped.
Yes, you can be kidnapped, so that you don't hold, especially if you are in a stronghold. Somebody make sure that you are returning officer and the officers cannot. So I think they were doing a precautionary kind of it, so they had some risk management kind of plan. Just like we observers, we also had our own risk management plan, which I will share with you. We knew who should call who, and when something happened, how you deal with it. So we were so coordinated to the level of not only dealing with the returning officer, we were also dealing with the counter returning officer, Madam Grace Rono, whom we are alerting everything, and then we also link to the commissioner who is in charge of elections, Madam Anna Nderito. So at least we were having our own conveyor pathway and belt.
Any challenges that you faced as observers?
Observers also have their own challenges. One of the challenges also, you can also be mistaken identity. You can also be like now some of us who wear different badges. You can whatever hats. Today you are a human rights, tomorrow you are an observer, tomorrow you are doing that. So people don't understand that you can always be one person and doing different roles. And
someone can remember the oversight you did somewhere.
Yes, and then come and hit you. At one time I caused a by-election in this county, they hit you. So you can also be mistaken to be a partisan.
Are you aware that there were some journalists, I'm not going to mention his name.
You don't have to.
But who was threatened in a polling station?
Yes, I'm aware. Not even one. There was 3 of them. Some of them talked to us and they said we were being threatened because they were being told you were biased in your report.
Yes.
Perception, because maybe there was no evidence. Perception that they were biased. So some journalists were being harassed. Yes.
Okay.
And even the IBC officials who don't understand even the role of observers could have wanted to have the observer keep a distance. Yet the observer is supposed to be having his eyes and ears wherever you are.
Would there be a better way of protecting such people? Because you see, for journalists, just like observers, they can be roaming from one polling station to another. So in between, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Could there be a way of making sure that their security is taken care of?
Yes, that means they have also to be accompanied with security, especially when you realize an area is volatile. You can always seek for police protection. Like personally, because I was roving around, the police were aware, the DCI were aware, and some of them were not in any uniform. They are aware. Whenever I went, and if I could just signal, then they could arrive, because every polling station was having security.
But you're not offered a vehicle?
No, there was no such. What could have happened is our own observer mission, that's NYUKURI, could have given us a vehicle. But logistically, I think they were not able, because they had so many observers across the country. But that could be good. But again, you can also have a vehicle which can be marked. So it also may not be very safe. So having a vehicle and not having a vehicle has both merits and demerits.
Okay. I've seen here your tallying. Now, this tallying you do, is it based on the IBC one, or you do your own independent?
It's independent but based on IBC. While IBC is counting and saying this is our tally, we are also doing the turns on the same. So that now we are doing almost like a parallel tally. But the source of information is the same. That's why before now IBC comes to Kisiwa to tally their results, Professor NYUKURI Barasa, as the coordinator of the observers, has already received all the results. So what will prevent me from having provisional results? Of course, I'm not to announce the winner or declare the results, but I can share provisional results, and I'm sure you saw me sharing that.
There was also this concern that there would be some skewed assistance for those who might claim, and I mean the word claim because I was told that some people
claim they are not illiterate
because they've been given money earlier. They would come and pretend not to be able to read or write.
We saw such a case,
so that they are in the name of assisting,
they are told the right candidate,
and then also agents have to confirm that we've actually voted for that person we promised to vote for.
That one I cannot rule out. It happened, and the only thing is that the election regulation only allows the PO or the deputy to assist. There's nothing you can do. If he comes and says I cannot read and write, you can't force him to do a test of reading and writing. So it is reported to the PO, who will now give him or her the ballot and called agents to witness, so that he or she can pronounce what is the preferred candidate. But that again compromises the security of the ballot. In Kenya, election is supposed to be by secret ballot. You should not know what and whom I voted for. The other area which also is linked to what you have asked is the issue of disabled persons, especially those who are visually impaired. We needed a braille or tactical kind of ballot vote, where now another kushika hivi aone. We did not have that. So in our recommendation we are saying, in fact, just look at the recommendation, we are saying IBC must have specific ballot papers for persons with disability, so that their will is not compromised. We had some places where the ramps were not there, and I'll give you an example of Nalondo DEP. Was one of our polling stations we observed. It was very difficult for the disabled person to move to the classroom without a ramp. I'm sure you will see that in the report.
So say something on propaganda. I noticed that
there was also general propaganda and intimidation. It was so long. Whatever, this propaganda was first of all on both sides. At one point even they said the independent candidate had withdrawn when he just met some for the Kenya luminaries in a particular hotel, when he had also gone to look for his own cup of tea. And propaganda can also, maybe even they could have scored more, but because of propaganda people became apathetic about it. But there was also propaganda on the other side, that this guy is declaring, who was the opponent, also declaring he has already given up. So propaganda can be positive and negative. There's also misinformation and disinformation which was going around.
So voter turnout of 50.09%. In your view or in your estimation as an organization, is that fair for a by-election? Does it still qualify to be called low turnout, or
no? Within our international standard, observation standards, the minimum threshold is 45%.
Because for a by-election.
For a by-election, we expect apathy. But when you get 50 plus 0.9, I think that's good. It's average.
Okay.
Just like a lower than average. So for us, for Kapichai, we cannot say it was below average. It was a reflection of the will of the people.
You've mentioned something about the boards for PWDs.
Yes.
Generally.
Yes.
Apart from those ones.
Yes.
What else would you be recommending that IBC does to accommodate our brothers who are disabled?
Now, apart from that, they can always be assisted. And if there are many in a place, they should first of all, they are given the first priority to vote and go, including the elderly and the mothers who are lactating or those who are pregnant. So that is supposed to be like, they are not supposed to stand on any queue. They are supposed to be given preference. And even those who are sick, we recommend that IBC can have, so long as they have confirmed you are in the nearby hospital and you are sick and you are a registered voter, they should be able to have a provision for such a people to vote or exercise their will. Yeah, that's a recommendation that we believe. And then in the future, why not even allow somebody to vote electronically wherever he is, so that now beyond just the manual appearance, somebody if is able to look at whatever and is able to be identified by biometric, he can vote anywhere. In Uganda, for instance, your ID is also like your voter's card. Why in Kenya is that we have a ID or a valid passport plus a registration? Why can't we just synchronize?
We use just one document.
One document. So now we are having several more documents. Some people came with photocopies. You are not allowed. Yet he is registered, but they will not allow you to vote. You know, that becomes a hindrance.
Okay.
Yes, I'm registered. I'm being found on the machine, but the presiding officer is under instruction. Don't use an expired passport. Don't use a photocopy or police abstract.
Okay.
Yeah. That differentiates the voter.
There's this concern about party agents.
Yes.
And
that was a very serious
issues of accreditation.
Yes. Now we found out, and I think that's where IBC has to correct. We could have roaming party agents who are mostly party officials from a particular party or from a candidate who could rove around. They could come in a particular polling station, like 10 of them, sometimes to the extent of interfering with the free flow and the queue and also the work of the IBC. You know, people become tense and scared. You could see in one polling station I could see more than 10 agents from one particular formation. That was intimidating. Because they had to accommodate all the MCS, they had to accommodate the MPs, they had to yes,
so all the MPs, all the MCs had
yes, because if they had no badges, we could still have accused IBC. So they were given badges and accredited. No, that is now causing a lot of commotion. Yet you only
whose prerogative is it to decide how many super agents you have?
It's supposed to be IBC in consultation with the party, because you cannot have so many coordination points.
Yes.
But now that was a loophole. They must have issued more accreditation to so-called super agents, which was causing confusion. Ideally, under section 31 of the Elections Act, you're only supposed to have, as a candidate or as a party, how many agents? 2. One can be inside, who alternates with one who is outside. But now ordinarily these people could have their own 2 agents inside and there are several hovering around the compound within the 400.
Who could easily now participate in voter bribery.
That is voter bribery and intimidation, and even intimidation and canvassing. Because the moment you ask them, at even the police, they will say, I'm accredited. So it's like you cannot chase them away. You see now how the police also had a lot of problems. So we are telling IBs, don't over-accredit. You only deal with those who are supposed to be at the polling station. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So this one is to protect voter candidate and agent from intimidation.
Yes.
That one you addressed.
Yes.
Ensure strict adherence to ballot secrecy.
Yes. Now when people come and claim I don't know how to read and write, they have already compromised the secrecy. Yes, because they have to say whom they are going to vote for. We witnessed a point of where the agent wanted to assist a voter. We amesema mtu wangu. That one is not allowed. Yeah, it's only the presiding officer or the deputy who is allowed to do it, to assist the agent. Do
you mean to tell me that chiefs and assistant chiefs and county administrators were given uncontrolled access to the
some of them could come in the name of looking or checking on security. Under normal circumstances, they check on security. That's one of their ultimate functions.
Without badges?
No, they're supposed to have badges, but some of them could come in uniform. So you see now you cannot tell them they are uniform. Uniform is already an identification. Yeah.
Okay. So they were given unrestricted access.
Yeah, they could, because they will say here there's commotion, but that can also be pretense. Yeah. But in Malava and Malava it was worse. Malava chiefs were talking to voters. I think it was more under instruction from the powers that but here it was just they were not really interfering with our work or the work of the IBC, but they were present. You could see them in uniform. Yeah.
Wow, so Chwele has got 18,288. There was this concern that there were some was it 600 that had been added?
From where?
I don't know. There was this concern that was there that about 600 had been added.
I doubt. What happens if you have more than 700 votes, then they have to be split. I will give you an example of Usakala. Usakala had 670 for 3 streams, another one had 669. So the IBC regulation does not allow a polling station to have more than 700 voters. So it has to be, whenever the numbers are big, then they do some split. So it's not possible to have extra voters who are not in the KIEMS or in the register. And then in any case, there was ring fencing of registration in Kabuchai. Immediately IBC chair announced that there's going to be a by-election. It means all the voter registration process stopped in Kabuchai, and that's why we are going to resume next week. Yes. This time I want to be, because as a person who has witnessed elections for not only in Kenya, in Tanzania, South Africa, Sudan and everywhere. In Kenya now we have improved. We have come a long way. It's not very easy to steal or to stuff ballot papers. It's not easy, because that means the KIEMS must tally with the papers you have inserted. Yes. Because before they close the polling station, they have to do reconciliation of those. How many ballot papers were spoiled? How many were rejected? And all that. It's not easy. And I want to tell you, for the first time, I witnessed very few spoiled papers. I think in the whole of Chwele Kabuchai, there were not more than 10. Yes. Then assisted voters or assisted through validation was not more than 20 in the whole of Kabuchai. That means I think we have improved. Okay. IBC is improving, and that's why we are very grateful. But they have more to do with other factors that affect the credibility of the vote, especially violence, and because that's their function and the intimidation.
So ladies and gentlemen, leo tumekuwa na NYUKURI Baraza. Nimeona one of the concerns, mtu amenikuwa ananipigia masimu hapa mingi, amenitumia message anasema tunaongea kizungu mingi.
So tukazungumza Kiswahili.
And yes, at times it's just good to have these conversations in English. Kuna zile zitakuja kwa Kiswahili.
Yes.
Na kuna zile zitakuja kwa mother tongue.
Hata kwa Kivukusu.
So this one we chose to do it in English.
Yes, but we can have it translated into Swahili.
Nimeona hata affect viewership sana, but the gist of this whole thing is we have gotten the information from an observer, mtu mwenye alikuwa pale ndani kwa sababu ya kuangalia. And ametuambia vile whatever ameona, and we are very grateful, NYUKURI, that you've come here.
Yes.
Maybe you can just give us your conclusion or your closing remark.
Yes.
As we wind up.
Kwanza kwamba mimi kama observer ningesema nimefurahi sana kupatiwa hiyo opportunity, na hata viewers, kama hata hatukuzungumza Kiswahili, tungependa kuambia wananchi wa Kabuchai na hasa wa Bungoma kwamba sisi tulikuwa macho na masikio ya wananchi. Kama kuna tosari ilitokea iko kwa ripoti yetu, na kuna shingine tutashughulikia hata tukienda record statement kwa polisi alafu iende kotini. Kama hiyo violence sisi hatuwezi kutolerate, hatuwezi kusema ilikuwa mzuri. Mambo ya bribery mahali penye tuko na evidence hatuwezi kusema ni vizuri, lakini bribery ni ngumu sana kuprove kwa mahakama. Watu ukisema pesa, ulikuwa umechukua hata serial number ya pesa, na unajua mwenye ana bribe anafanyanga vitu chini ya meza. Sasa hiyo itakuwa ngumu, lakini ya violence hiyo tunaweza kutumia kitu inaitwa circumstantial evidence to prove, because we have a picture, huyu mtu amekuwa hurt, amepata P3.
Why don't you encourage live streams inside polling stations?
It can also compromise the secrets of the ballot. That's why
not to point at the voting place, but at least the other yes, just within, to cover occurrences,
yes,
but not at the voting place.
Yes, the standard is live streaming, but maybe in future your suggestion could work, so that in the polling station you can also have live streams of incidences, but as long as it doesn't capture whoever is voting and the ballot, because you may know whom I'm picking for or against. So we must also protect the privacy and the secrets of the ballot, which is a constitutional right.
That one specifically might also assist me and other media houses to prepare well for the next election.
Yes,
because we also want to make sure that the public gets information as fast as possible.
But remember, there's also privacy. You should not know whom I've voted for or against.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. Not at the ballot.
Yes, but within the 400
But like what about if like someone walking into the voting room, picking the form?
Yes.
Now when he goes to that box area, that is where we leave that person alone.
Yes.
All right.
But outside there, maybe within the presence of the 400 meters radius, that's I think a good recommendation.
That could also help remove things like violence within the polling station.
I think that is an area which can cap violence against the whatever the role players in the electoral process. So I think that is one of the recommendations. I'm going to be involved in the electoral reforms. I also do my national duty. So I will be sitting in such a kind of forums where those kind of conversations will be going in. I will be able to bring out such a kind of suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa, ladies and gentlemen, it is 20:59 hours. Nawashukuru sana for joining us. Kizungu mingi tumeongea.
Next time hatutazungumza Kizungu. Tutatumia Kiswahili. Lakini I hope they could have asked questions so that they get clarity.
I've not seen any questions.
Wanasema Kiswahili.
Naona tu kuna mtu hapa anaitwa kijana wa Chapo, Eric, anasema very true. Sijui ni comment gani anasema very true tu. Pia sijaona kijana yangu hapa akiran comments leo.
Sijaona hata.
Sijaona comments akiran kabisa. So
as part of the takeaway, next time tutazungumza Kiswahili. Hata mimi naenda Tanzania nafunzanga watu kwa Kiswahili mambo ya uchaguzi. Sasa itakuzungumza, but I hope we will be talking about something else.
Maybe that is something that we have noticed. So
that's a positive comment.
Let's call it a day, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
This is Edward Omalo Simiyu, na tumekuwa live hapa kwa Facebook na YouTube. I encourage you guys to follow and subscribe. Follow me Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel Ikue updates. But then naona watu wananiandikia vitu, wanaandika Ikue ya IKU. It is IKUWE as one word. Ikue. So tafuta hizo platforms, subscribe so that tukienda live wakati mwingine we don't have time to share the link. You see, like now today tukianza I have to take time kutumia wale, especially the old guards, those who say share the link, so I have to share with them the link before we formally start. But anyway, sisi ndio hawa, nashukuru sana.
Tutaendelea na political education, sio civic education. Political education, watu waelewe siasa ni nini.
Yes. I think now we can start running the program ya zile vitu tulikuwa tumesema, corruption in the county, na nini, so tunakuja we come down to zile vitu zile mnataka kusikia sana. So we are going to plan the program, then we'll be giving you I'll be releasing a poster of how we're going to run those debates in the coming days. Yes. So thank you very much, guys. Come on.
Yes.
Azima, you can end the live stream, one.
Yes. Asante sana. Yep. Yes. Oh.
You
don't know how time can move when you are busy.
Time runs.
Yes.
Yep. You know